education and innovation. And I think those of you that are really familiar with pediatric healthcare today realize there's a bit of an existential crisis that's happening, particularly with independent children's hospitals that don't have the Medicare reimbursement, don't have the adult components of it, but have so much of the concepts, the work environments, and the intellectual property that will drive this kind of innovation and technology. And so what you all are doing is critically important, I think, to the future of pediatric healthcare. And so we're delighted to be able to host a forum where you're bringing these concepts to bear, and we see what the future opportunities are in making a difference in children's lives. So really privileged to host you all, really excited to hear the work that you're all engaged in, and more importantly, the follow-up and the impact that I know that you personally have. So welcome to Chicago, a real privilege for us to be hosting CTIP and to turning over to one of the smartest guys that I know, Dr. Espinoza.
All right. Let's see. Can you all hear me okay? Fantastic. And how do I hide? There we go. Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much for all of you for being here, for joining us, for participating in this today. I want to set the stage a little bit about sort of where we are, what is our current state with pediatric medical devices, what is CTIP's mission, and what do we see is the future of this type of innovation. It'll be immediately better once I turn on my lav. And so I'm going to talk for the next 10 or so minutes about this. I'll be honest, I'm going to start low. We're going to get a little bit lower, and then we're going to work our way back up. So just know it gets better. So the first thing that I hope many of you will either agree or will come to know is that there is a huge gap. The availability and sophistication of pediatric medical devices lags behind their adult counterparts by as much as 10 years. The reality is that children experience innovation different than adults, not a good different, and that this gap is a major health inequity, where the majority of device development and device funding and device focus targets adults. And insult to injury, the greatest gap is for the youngest children and the sickest children. What we end up with is a situation where most pediatric device use is off-label. That means that there's no specific safety data for the use in children. That means that children are exposed to really inconsistent benefit risk profile from this necessary off-label use. And the reality is that we know this from the data, and we know this from device experience, that when devices are designed, evaluated, and labeled explicitly for children, it improves their safety profile. It improves health equity. So how did we end up in this situation? Well, in general, there are sort of 4 sets of challenges that pediatric medical device innovators face. There are some scientific and engineering challenges, right? Children are not little adults. You can't just make things smaller. There are some ethical challenges. Sometimes it can be a little bit harder to do studies in children. You have to think about consent, special protected populations, parent and child assent. There are some regulatory challenges. There are no really specific pathways for children. And sometimes we're looking at applying these device pathways that were really created for adult markets for pediatric applications. And then, of course, there are financial challenges. But these things are not all the same. In fact, one of these is more important than the other. So why is one of these more important than the other? Well, it comes to how we spend money in this country, right? Children under 21, which is what the FDA uses as a definition for devices, are 25% of the US population, but less than 10% of all healthcare dollars. Pediatric care, pediatric doctors, pediatric hospitals, pediatric surgeons are reimbursed at about 50 to 70% what the same services are reimbursed at for adults. And there's almost no national coverage policies that standardize coverage and reimbursement for pediatric healthcare. And that's healthcare delivery. Other areas are equally underinvested in research. Only about 12% of the NIH's total $47 billion budget is focused on pediatric research. And in the private capital and investor side, somewhere between 1% and 4% of all health tech deals are related to pediatrics. The answer is that it's closer to 1%. You have to stretch and include digital health to even get close to 4%. In medtech, it's around 1%. And the reality is, the reason why we're here is that medical devices are hard, right? I usually joke, it's not that funny. Healthcare is hard. Health tech is harder. Pediatric health tech is the hardest thing to do, right? Medical devices are expensive to develop, $30 to $200 million a pop. They have a long journey to market, 3 to 10 years, depending on the complexity, sometimes longer. And as I was showing you earlier, these pediatric markets, they can be heterogeneous. They can be unpredictable in terms of revenue generation. And so we have what we call in the med tech industry, the valley of death, right? This curve is both the cause of and potentially solution to a lot of our problems, to quote Homer Simpson. Where during the early research and development phase, a lot of this technology gets developed using public funding, grants, institutions. And then as you move into getting closer to marketing and commercialization, the dollars required are higher. There are no grants for a $50 million clinical trial. So you need to start looking at private funding and then hopefully make it to product launch and revenue generation. But you need a certain amount of money just to keep your company going, just to keep this project going. And so when the amount of money you need goes below that line over time, this is the value. So how do we turn this around? What can we do? Well, we can change the shape of this curve, right? We can increase public funding. We can create the appropriate incentives for private funding. We can reduce the cost of valley of death, so make this not more shallow. We can shorten the time in the valley of death, or we can increase revenue generation opportunities to make this whole thing actually worth. And there's a number of organizations and initiatives already in place to start to do this, right? There's regulatory and legislative innovation that is ongoing. There's increase in research funding. There is work being done to improve and get to more robust and reliable value generation mechanisms, whether that's better reimbursement for DRGs or changing the way that Medicaid reimburses or focusing more on value-based agreements. There's real-world evidence as an opportunity to reduce some of the barriers of getting to market. And we'll hear more about that today in one of our panels. Industry support, right? Having industry both focus on pediatrics and then also give industry the appropriate incentives and requirements to focus. There's the Pediatric Device Consortium program run by the FDA, and I'm going to talk about that. And then I think one of the more exciting things that we've been working on as a community is the Pediatric Medical Device Public-Private Partnership. This is a program that started at the FDA and is now currently being run by the Foundation for the NIH. It's a partnership of multiple government agencies, the NIH, BARDA, FDA, children's hospitals, and industry to try to build a national system of hospitals to support evidence generation towards regulatory approvals for pediatric devices. So I'm going to focus on the one that I know the most about, the one that I spend most of my time on, which is the Pediatric Device Consortium. So in 2007, Congress passed legislation that created this program within the FDA and was first funded in 2009. Since then, in the first 14 years of this program, there have been 4 cycles of this grant. Those have been spread out across 10 institutions and 20 awards, a total investment of about $30 million in federal funds over those 14 years, and over 1,000 pediatric devices supported. The most recent grant cycle in 2023 to 2028 includes 5 consortia, and it includes the UCSF Stanford Pediatric Device Consortium, the Southwest PDC based at Texas Children's, the Alliance for Pediatric Device Innovation based at Children's National, the Midwest Pediatric Device Consortium, our newest partners in the PDC ecosystem based at Nationwide Children's, and then CTIP, who, as of 2023, is now here at Lurie, but still maintains an extensive West Coast network. In terms of our program, we first started in Los Angeles as an internally funded collaboration between Children's Hospital Los Angeles and the University of Southern California. We were first funded by the FDA in 2013, really with a focus on the SoCal ecosystem. In 2018, we received our second fund from the FDA, expanded to bring institutions across the entire West Coast, California, Oregon, and Washington. And in 2023, we moved to Lurie Children's, again, maintaining our West Coast consortium, and we're funded a third time by the FDA, and now have grown to 26 organizations across 8 states, all of them focused on pediatric device innovation. Really, our goal is to advance these devices on the pathway from concept to commercialization. And we work with innovators and entrepreneurs really at any stage, right? The concept, prototype, you already have a commercialized device for adults and you want to think about how to work on it with pediatrics. Importantly, we do not take any stake, IP, or ownership. We're here truly to help. This gives you a sense of what our scope of activities are. We're often working on sourcing new pediatric device projects. They go through our evaluation and strategy development and due diligence process. Those that we think we can help become members of our portfolio. And then once within our portfolio, they're able to receive direct services from our team. We help support partnerships, indirect funding, where we help pay for consultants on behalf of early stage innovators, and then direct device funding. That's our check writing activities. And then, of course, education, events. Thank you for helping with that one. Our advocacy work, our communication work, and then research in our medical device clinical trials. We've tried to tailor our support based on where companies are in the total product life cycle. So we understand based on where you are and where you're going, what's the most important thing we can do for you to help you get there. And we've been incredibly lucky. We've had the privilege to work with an incredible portfolio of companies, 146 portfolio members between 2018 and 2023, who collectively raised over $600 million, have received 51 federal grants totaling $38 million, 21 products on market, including 7 510Ks, 2 de novos, 11 exempts, and 1 EUA in the middle of COVID. Also helped them with breakthrough designations, step designations, publications, and clinical trials research. Obviously, this is a lot of work and it requires a big team. I am incredibly lucky to work with some of the most brilliant and committed people who you see on here, who I want to call out by name because none of this is possible without them. My co-directors, Doctors Melissa Bent and Yaniv Cohen, Catherine Cooper, our investment advisor, Salima Jamal, our program manager, Greg Zapotocny, our regulatory lead and MDCTU director, Bianca Riello, Madison Christmas, and Nadina Fari, our program associates that run various aspects of our support programs for companies. Rachel Spencer, our communications coordinator, Tamara Lambert, our brand new Covacure MedTech Innovation Fellow, and today's MVP and GOAT, Shahid Kazi, who has done so much work to make this possible today. If you would please help me clap for so thank you all for making this. What we've tried to make possible for today is this incredible event. We have put together what I hope is a meaningful and interesting panel for you, where we're going to start with focusing where all of this should start is patients, their voice. What do they want? What do they need? What do they expect from us? Right? If we are stewards of power and privilege, how do we leverage that power and privilege to help those that we are supposed to be helping? Then moving from that into how do we think about partnerships? How do we do R&D together? How do we accelerate this work? Then we're going to talk about real-world evidence. Real-world evidence is a really important piece of the armamentarium towards pediatric health equity in medical devices. And finally, we're going to talk about investing in pediatrics, the quite literal where the rubber meets the road, I suppose not literal, figurative, I guess where the pen meets the paper. Hopefully that paper is in check. And then throughout, you're going to be hearing from 6 of our portfolio members about their journey and the work that they've been doing. So with that, I want to say thank you to all of our generous sponsors and partners who made this symposium possible. Google Cloud, Nest, the Health at Home program here at Lurie, Aetion, Ontogen, Diabetes Technology Society, Peds Market, and Cicada. Thank you for your donation, for your time, for your partnership. We cannot do this without you. So we're grateful for you. Obviously, our host institution, this beautiful building, this space, the people who pay my salary, and then Robert H. Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago and the Stanley Manny Children's Research Institute have been supportive of this grant and this program from day one since I got here, January 23rd, 2023. And then all of our ecosystem partners who've helped promote this event, help spread the word, get you in this room and online to show up. And of course, we could not do our work without the companies that we do our work for. There's over 100 of our portfolio members, but these companies are here today. You'll either be hearing from them as presenters or they'll have booths outside. I encourage you to go and talk to them, learn about their journeys, learn about their products, see if there's something that you can do to help advance this mission of pediatric health equity devices. What I want to leave you with is this. Hopefully what you saw is that there's an entire ecosystem, people and organizations who are committed to making a difference. We can change the shape of this curve. We're going to have to work together. We're going to have to get creative. In the words of a 1997 ad executive, we're going to have to think different about this problem. And if Apple computers could use that slogan and cool black and white photographs of interesting people to turn around what was essentially a failing company in the late 90s into the second or third most valuable company in the world by selling us pocket Turing machines, then I think it's fair for us to borrow this motto and borrow this visual language to get people to think about something that truly and deeply matters.